Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Black Folk. Today, I am so excited about this panel. I'm so excited about these experts that are going to be speaking to us about the rule of law. So, without further ado, call me Esquire. And so, just to get started, I want our panelists to go ahead and introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about them, and why did they decide to enter the law field? So, Emerson, would you like to start?
Sure. My name is Emerson Lovell. I'm from Harlem, New York, and I decided to enter the law field based off of a memory I had when I was very young. When I was in elementary school, one of our guest speakers that came was a lawyer. And typically, whenever we had guest speakers come, the students were always peeled on the speaker, but the teachers would go and do whatever else they wanted to do, prepare for the next class or whatnot. But everyone was hooked on to every word of that he was saying, and I was like, I want that level of respect. That's something I want to attain. So from then on, I always had law as something I wanted to do. And then when I got to college, a lot of my fraternity brothers went to law school, and then they were like, "This is something I think you'll be really good at." So that's how I got interested.
Thank you. And Takia, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Takia Gadson. I became interested in the law in college. I was a president of my sorority. I'm a Delta, and I was involved in SGA and things like that. And I would get all this feedback based on how I would present myself, present my ideas in the Senate and things like that. And people always say you have great advocacy skills and you're so passionate and you're really into investigating and arguing your point and arguing on behalf of organizations and students and like.
Sure. My name is Ryan Stowe. I'm from Salisbury, North Carolina. I actually was really, really inspired by President Barack Obama. He was actually elected my senior year in high school. At the time, I thought I wanted to go into politics. And so most people would become a lawyer first. And so that was the route I took until I got to law school and I actually interned on Capitol Hill and I changed my mind about politics. So here I am.
Fantastic. Daniel, would you like to go next?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well. My name is Daniel Brown. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And I decided to go to law school and become an attorney because to me, I always say we always help people. Everyone helps people in different capacity. And for me, being an attorney, using my talents and abilities and gifts that God gave me to help people, whether it's in the courtroom, fighting for rights and stuff like that. So for me, being an attorney was the only profession.
Hi, I'm Jamila Hubbard, and the reason why I went to law school is truly because of an interaction I had with the police myself. And it was also during the summer of 2017, so when Philando Castile was killed. Based on those things that were going on, I was like, I have to change the world and I have to make it a better place, and I decided I had to go to law school to do it. So the seed was probably planted when I was in high school, but I didn't make the decision until the summer of 2017.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And so when we think about law school, right, and I often, when I have conversations with young people and, you ask them what they aspire to do, and one of the fields that people jump on right away is I want to be a lawyer. What does a day in the life of a law student look like? And Jamila, you're the most recent graduate, so I'm gonna start with you, and then we can take it from there.
Okay, sure. So I'll give you like pre-Rona and post-Rona law school. So my typical day in law school would probably start around 9 o'clock, 8 or 9 o'clock. I would get to school. I usually didn't have classes my last year of law school, but I would just be at school because it's like a job. There's that much work. There was that much for me to have to do. So I'd get on campus between 8 and 9, and I wouldn't leave campus until maybe like between 8 and 9. So 12-hour day, you can come home and there's still more work. So I would describe law school as like, the work is never ending. There's never nothing to do. So I think that's the best way I could describe a day in the life of a law student. You're busy.
Thank you. And when we think about how hard students work, I'm sure there's some that work harder than others. And then there's just some that, they like breaking barriers. They like doing things that most people haven't done in about 60 years. So Emerson, tell us about your law school trajectory.
Yeah, sure. So I, like you said, when like Jalea said, like when it comes to school, it's like your full-time job, right? For me, I knew what I wanted to do was graduate number one in my class, and I wanted to graduate soon. summa cum laude in my class. So the best way to do that for me was just to maximize my time on campus. I got to campus every day at 7 o'clock, sometimes a little earlier, but I tried to aim for 7 because that's when our library opened. So while I'm in the library until my first class at 9, I'm just studying, reviewing any information that we went over previously. And then in between classes, I'm listening to audio tapes about subjects that I'm either iffy on or just want to like solidify. And then after class is done, I spend like an hour or two reviewing my notes, and then I'll spend time doing practice problems. And I think that's the part that's kind of lost on a lot of people, is that law is all very practical. So you can have all the theory in the world and understand it, but if you can't apply it to a set of facts, then it means nothing, right? It doesn't mean anything if you're in the library for like 12 hours a day, but you can't be able to tell a professor on paper or tell anybody that you're advocating for what the actual law should be or what the outcome should be. So that was my typical day.
For that. I can imagine that, we deal with a lot of challenges throughout our your processes of both law school and just being a working attorney. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you all may have faced in your career, in law school, just different challenges, and tell us a little bit about like how you overcame them. And so with that, Takia, can I start with you?
As far as challenges, you're going to encounter these challenges as far as when exams come and you have one exam per class at the end of the semester, and you are asked to apply the legal concepts and cases that you have learned throughout the semester to these law exams. My law journey was interesting, and it built a lot of character on top of the character that I already had. It built a lot of discipline on top of the discipline that I already had. You have to have some level of integrity, discipline, honesty, all those different qualities to get to law school, or to get to law school successfully and honestly. And then when you get to law school, everything is put to the test. So for me, in my specific situation, I had my first son, my only son, in law school, my only child in law. I don't know why I said first son. My only child in law school. I was pregnant when I stepped on the campus. And so for me, they stick to my goals in law school.
Thank you so much for that. And I want to pose that same question to Daniel. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you face either in law school or as a practice attorney? And what are some methods that you use to overcome those challenges?
As far as every day as a practicing attorney, the main thing is making sure that you procedure is extremely important, right? Because that can win or lose you a case, even at the outset. And I think that's one thing law students may not understand. I started my own firm in May of last year, and I had a case that was new to me, and it was on appeal. And understanding the proper appellate procedure is what won and lost that case. And I think, so every day as an attorney, deadlines are important. What does the motion do? How do you respond to a motion to dismiss? So those are some of the challenges. I thought the biggest challenge when I started my firm was going to be getting clients. And you'll see that's not really the biggest challenge and I think most people who venture out on their own in private practice will say the same. But just, making sure, you have to battle that familiarity. A lot of times people say, oh, I knew you when you was in law school, or I knew you when you were this, or before you became the attorney. And so sometimes that's a hurdle in and of itself. Just making sure you gain their respect from everyone. So on a daily basis, making sure procedurally things are done properly, and then also making sure you're just, consummate professional in everything you do on a daily basis to represent your firm in the best light.
And you hit on something that I definitely want to hit on, so often, or I've heard, and, in conversation, that when you graduate from law school, you can make the decision to go work for a firm, go work for the public defender's office, or as some of you have done, started your own firms. And so I want to get a little bit of insight of what made you, what prompted you to make that decision, and overall, how's it been? And so Ryan, I want to pose that question to you. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
So I started my firm initially, well, I guess it's better to say I started my firm right after I got licensed. For me, what it was is that I just have an entrepreneurial heart, and I never tried to apply for a job. I never did any of that. I just started my firm after I got my license. It's been great. It's been challenging, especially at the onset. Like Daniel said, getting clients isn't the hard part. What the hard part is learning how to market while also learning how to be an attorney, while also learning how to actually run a business and all of the things that you have to do outside of being in court. Just rewind a little bit to the last question. For me, one of my biggest challenges, though, is being the only Black lawyer in my entire county. That is the biggest challenge that I have, be it arguing with a bailiff, trying to prove that I'm a lawyer, or going out of county and people assuming I'm a defendant or telling me where child support court is, or this weird stuff, these weird microaggressions. That has been the biggest challenge for me, is that being Black in these rural counties is very difficult as an attorney in itself.
So you hit on an important issue that I would love to get you all's take on. And Jamila, I'm gonna start with you. How big was diversity in your law program, and was that something that was important to you, if in regards to what school you decided to pursue, or was that an irrelevant factor?
So for me, it was not a relevant factor in choosing my school, because I chose my school because they have in-state tuition and I'm a DC resident. So it was really purely financial for me, because law school is expensive. But at my school, what I found out is that it was an HBCU. It was my first time ever having a Black professor. It was my first time ever having a Black female supervisor. So I kind of stumbled into a great situation. Like I said, I had like a sporadic, just kind of impulsive urge to apply to law school, and I didn't. And so I decided in the summer of 2017 I wanted to go to law school, and by the summer of 2018 I was in law school. So I will admit that I didn't do as much research as I should have, but I think that the program and the university at David A. Clark School of Law at UDC, it was very empowering to have to be in a school situation, an educational situation, which I've never been in, where it was a majority of Black people. The white people were the minority, and it was different for me, but different in a positive way. Different in a way that, you know, these people were seeing me for my potential, for what I had, were pushing me in ways that I had never been pushed before, counseling me in ways that I had never been counseled before, supervised before. So it definitely was beneficial. I think that it makes a huge difference, especially in law school, especially as a Black woman in law school. This is a white male dominated profession. So to have Black women as my supervisors, as my professors, as my mentors, I can't imagine going through law school without that.
Thank you for that. And so I want to piggyback a little bit off that response. So Emerson, you went to Duke for undergrad, right? So you went to a major research one, predominantly white institution. Why did you choose Howard?
Yeah, we had this discussion before, but it comes from a quote from you, where when I was debating between law schools and I was thinking about going back to New York, as I'm from New York, you were like, I want you to go somewhere where you're celebrated, not tolerated. And that's something that really stuck with me. So then I go and visit for the Admitted Students Day, and all I'm seeing is this Black excellence, right? Like, you see everybody going to these top law firms. You see these professors from top law firms that decide to come back and teach, or some of them are adjuncts and they're teaching while still at these top law firms, and just telling you that you can do it and welcome to the legacy. And that really stuck with me and resonated with me. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go to Howard.
Thank you for that. And so I just want to shift the conversation a little bit toward our current times, right? And so after the death of George Floyd, Rayshon Brooks, Breonna Taylor, and all these names that we know and we don't know, we've seen an uprise in tension between the Black community and just America as a whole. And so from a legal perspective, and I think this question is paramount, because from a legal perspective, how can everyday citizens support the current movement, but also in the same essence keep themselves safe within the realms of the law?
I'm gonna try to answer this question first, but I may need to circle back once I hear some other thoughts. But that's the first thing, is to vote. I know everyone always says that, but I really mean vote, because what happens is people don't consider their local elections enough. And I say this because your local district attorney can choose who to charge at any point that they want to. So they can easily charge whatever killers of whoever they want to, or any other crime if they choose to. So I think that's the biggest thing. In terms of staying safe, I say this to everyone, but stop talking to the police. Like, there's no reason to ever talk to police for any reason unless you're a victim of a crime and you can't find any other way to do community justice, whatever. But other than that, if you're protesting, don't talk to police there. Don't participate in police interviews. That's really it. But yeah, just don't talk to the police.
No snitching, huh? No snitching. That's
No,
basically what it's.
No, if anything.
What it sounds like.
Yeah.
I'll jump in real quick. Ryan mentioned a good point. Voting is definitely important. Because a lot of times people only look at the national election, right? Like we know we have a presidential election coming up, and we don't often consider the local elections and the impact that it can have more directly on you on a daily basis. But I would say the first thing, man, and I did a video on this that I'll be releasing soon, six tips to combat systemic racism, and voting is on that list. But I would say, number one, educate yourself, right? Like, you need to understand the plight of Black people in this country and how we got here. And then number two, our current situation. So, like, educate yourself on Jim Crow laws and having a historical concept and a perspective on how we got here will give you a better understanding of how to move forward, in my opinion. Because now you understand, okay, these laws, this is what voter suppression is today, because of back then you had to guess how many jelly beans or whatever were in a jar, or whatever the situation, is. Like, understanding from a historical perspective, what it is and why we're here today. And then two, getting involved in some way, shape, or form. And voting is one of those, that's your voice at the polls. And that goes hand in hand with the educating yourself part, because knowing who your, elected officials are, and knowing what laws have been passed, and knowing why you're voting. Sometimes, man, I've talked to a lot of people, they don't know why they're voting for certain people, because they may not even understand, who's on the ballot, or maybe their first time, or this person is Black, I'm definitely going to vote for them. And they may not have your best interests at heart. So I would definitely say educate yourself first, get involved, definitely vote. And there are other tips as well I can share, but I think those are the main points right at the outset.
I second not talking to the police.
Yes, there are so many different ways that you can fight the good fight. Number one is being historically aware. If you are a college student, you need to be taking some African Studies courses. That needs to be on your, if you don't major or minor, that needs to be on your case. If you are not in college and that's not your path, that's totally fine. Pick up all the big name history books. I mean, The Souls of Black Folk, like the classics that you will read to educate yourself on the history of Black people and the political landscape that they're in this country historically and now.
Yeah, just adding one more point, specifically when it comes to city council. All right, sometimes it's not even just running and voting, but attending the meetings. All right, so a lot of these meetings, the police, through their police unions, have to speak up about different policies that they want to implement and changes that are making year to year. Just going and asking questions right there will be enough, right? So if you go New York, using this example, if you go after the Eric Garner case, people went to the city council meetings and they were asking about, well, how did you come up with this chokehold in the first place? Why was it even in the policy, right? And just questions like that get the ball rolling. And it doesn't have to be you that leads the charge, but that's enough to ignite someone to want to lead the charge.
Thanks for that. And Ryan, did you have one last one before we move on?
I did. And Emerson, he just kind of mentioned part of what I was going to say, which is great. But going to city council meetings, and I know right now, some of the biggest things that people are doing in city council is asking to ban chokeholds, no-knock warrants, and the use of chemical agents, which is like tear gas, essentially. And so those are really big. The other thing is you can always ask your city to defund police, which is great because you shouldn't be talking to them anyway. And then lastly, and I don't know the best way that people can get on board with this, but we really have to end qualified immunity. And so what that is essentially that government agents or government officials, they can't be held liable for the stuff that they do wrong. So if you're a police officer and use excessive force, you're probably not going to be personally sued because of qualified immunity. And so I think once we have some real money implications to city government, I think some of these things will change.
Similar to undergrad, when we finally got that diploma, that was a very important, impactful time in our lives. So can y'all tell me a little bit about what it was like when, you found out that you were either like when you want to brink of graduation and that Esquire JD is about to be attached to your name, or like also for those of you who are currently practicing attorney, what was it like when you received that letter that said you had passed the bar of X and X state? And so Daniel shaking his head, so brother, I'm gonna start with you.
Listen, man, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be as authentic as I could, right? So I didn't pass the bar to the third time, right? The third time was a charm for me. And so I told myself, I said, I'm going over to Uganda, right? So a partner of mine and I, we went over to Uganda, and they're 6 hours ahead. So the results come out on my birthday, because my birthday is late October. So in Georgia, at least, the results come out at the end of October. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna check my results till I get back to the States. And so I turned my Wi-Fi connection on just to, be able to interact with some of my people over there. And next, I got a message from one of my brothers. He was like, "Yo, you passed." And mind you, the second time I took the exam, there was someone who had the exact same first and last name as I did. So I'm like, man, that person passed, but I thought, I'm thinking it's me. So I'm like, you know what? I said, I'm not checking it. I said, did you check the middle name? Did you make sure it was me? And they're like, no, we checked. So I said, listen, I don't want to believe anything till I see it. And so I'm over in Uganda, 6 hours ahead. And I called my brother. He sleep. He's like, yo, yeah, you passed. I made sure it was your middle name. I double checked, made sure because they posted the results. In Georgia, they posted the results on the bar exams website. I think they do that for most states. And so they was like, yo, this is you. So the whole time, so I had the trifecta. It was my first time in Africa. It was my birthday. And then I found out that I passed. I said, Lord, you knew what you was doing, because I didn't see it. The first two times, like, man, that third time was a charm.
Jamila, so as somebody that's currently going through the bar exam and somebody that's like aspiring for that, like what are some thoughts that go through your mind pertaining to that?
So the bar exam, I'm studying for it right now. Corona has made it a very interesting experience. So I already knew from all the advice that I've gotten from everyone else that it's going to be challenging. It's going to be like the period that I need to exercise the most discipline, the most focus, the most rigor. But it's been moved to October. It's actually been moved a couple times. So there's a lot of drama with the coronavirus around the bar exam. But I think outside of that, what I've been trying to do is make sure that my mental health is okay. And what I do in terms of my mental is make sure I'm eating right, make sure I'm working out, make sure I'm studying, making sure that I'm sticking to a schedule. And making sure that I'm keeping myself okay, because I don't think that I can perform on this exam. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of studying. It's a lot of, you can't cheat the time that it requires to put into this. And truthfully, if I only had 10 weeks, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. So I see not taking the exam until October as a blessing, truthfully, because I needed the extra time.
That's what's up. And Takia, you want to hit on that as well?
It was a real struggle because I was studying in July, but I took it in February. So I had to keep studying. And then, of course, all your cases pile up and then you study for the bar exam. But it was dope for me. The first time I found out, I went crazy because I was like, I've been waiting on this. And then with New York, it was crazy because I was actually like writing motions the night that we went back to the hotel for the second day. So I was like, I don't know why I took this exam while I was working. I don't know, that's bad judgment to kids. So I'm beating myself up, sending reports to my partner and all of those things, and I'm past it. So it was a great feeling. Like it's nothing like it.
Thank you. And so I want to take a moment. I've been asking a lot of questions. So I want to take a moment to open it up. What are some important things that you all think that, aspiring attorneys, people that are even interested in the law field, or just any general questions that you think are important that you all can bring light to? So I just want to open the floor and give you all an opportunity to let's have a conversation.
Okay, so I have one. So I don't think it's a question that someone might have, but it's more so a piece of advice.
Sure.
So like some people on here already said they had a difficult time just with the learning curve in the first year when you go to law school, dealing with anxiety, stress, burnout, all of those things. So in my last year of law school, I was a research assistant for one of my professors, and they were researching how vicarious trauma, burnout, and stress impact attorneys, specifically in immigration, asylum representation, and just dealing with survivors of trauma. Lawyers are very much so like social workers, so you have to take on your client's stuff. Whether you want to or not, a lot of people put a lot of trust into attorneys. So I just think that we are very mechanical, very logical people, but at the same time, we're still human and we're dealing with people's human experiences. So I think that it's important for you to learn coming into law school as early as you can, because the learning curve is hard, but as early as you can, how you are going to decide to deal with your work-life balance, because law school is definitely an environment that just wants you to work. And if you're not working, you're not doing hard enough. If you're sleeping, you're not working hard enough type of environment, which is toxic to a certain extent, but everybody needs to learn what their work-life balance is, where to draw the line. I also think it's important for people to know that the legal profession is one of the professions with the highest rates of suicide, highest rates of addiction. So those are all things that are, put onto people because of the level of stress that this profession has. And I think that it's not something that is addressed in law school enough. I don't think it's something that it's addressed in bar prep enough. I'm not a practicing attorney right now, so I don't know how my employer will deal with that, but it's not something that is dealt with. Whereas like in professions like nursing and social work, where you're taking on people's stuff, they have trainings, they have, seminars, extended learning, those types of things. So I think it's very important to shine the light on the importance of mental health in the legal profession, and also just in the Black community in general.
Thank you for that. Anyone else?
Yeah, I know for me, one of the questions I always give when I tell people I'm an attorney, they're like, is it hard? Like, was law school difficult? And the answer is yes, it is difficult. It's challenging at times, but it is worth it, right? And anything in life is. If it's difficult, it's hard, you work for it, it's definitely going to be valued, right? And so I always say, one of the ways, and to Jamila's point, be balanced. That's one of the life principles I live by. Like, you can't do anything 100% of the time, no matter what it is, right? So be balanced. Make sure you exercise. Make sure you're healthy in mind, body, and spirit. Making sure you're doing those things that are necessary to ensure your success. Making sure you're in a good mental state so that you can be successful. Because you're right, attorneys do. This is a very difficult profession, and it's a reason why it's valued and respected the way that it is, because we do have a lot of power. I remember at my graduation, I remember the guest speaker, he told everyone, he said, listen, man, like, he went through the statistics, and we know the statistics are very low for Black attorneys in America. And he said, you have a lot of power in your hands, and he talked about the fact that a lot of people are going to be hanging on every word. And that's so true. And I talk to my clients every day, and they hang on every single word that you say. And it's funny because every client thinks they're the only client. And it's like, I know practicing attorneys, y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, they think their case is the only case, and I have to constantly explain to them that your case is not the only case I'm working on. But I have to make sure I set those boundaries as well, and making sure that they understand, okay, this is the cutoff point.
So I think of two things that come to mind. Both of these came from Ryan. Ryan helped me out a lot. But the first part with Ryan, he told me, I hit him up before, like, might have been that July before I started classes in August. And I was like, man, what's the one piece of advice you can give me that I'm probably going to miss out on? And he was like, be prepared to change your way of thinking. Right. And a lot of that in law school, you can't think and like process things the same way as you did in undergrad or in pretty much any other job that you were working at. Right. So that was helpful. And that was the most helpful thing. And I realized it my very first day in torts class. We're reading, and you have like a knee-jerk reaction to a fact pattern. And then you realize that knee-jerk reaction is wrong because of what you believe things should be versus what the law actually is. So be prepared to change your way of thinking is the first one. And the second one, which is like very basic, but I see it every day, is ask for help, right? Like, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of the stress and pressures that come with being an attorney comes from like, as Daniel said, right? Like, people are relying on you and all of that. And so you feel that weight on your shoulders, but you forget that you also have people that you work with. You have coworkers you can talk to. And maybe my experience is a little different because I work at a law firm and we have like a ton of lawyers. But if I have something that I don't know, I'm going to go ask the person directly above me. Sometimes I even go up to a partner and ask, what does this mean? Right. And they understand that me asking a question means I want to perform to the best of my ability, and I want to help the client to the best of my ability.
Thanks for that. And so my next question I want to pose to the ladies on our panel. So what do you say to that young Black woman that's currently going through undergrad right now? They're aspiring to be an attorney, but there's so many different forces in life telling them that they're not going to be successful.
to the young Black woman in undergrad or in high school, for that matter, you're fully capable. And I'll do my tips at the end of the call because I had some things to say on that tip too. But and this is one of them. You're fully capable. Like, unlearn that idea that someone's smarter than you. No one's smarter than you. You put the work in to learn what you want to learn, however long it takes you, you'll learn it. And obstacles like the LSAT, like that's such a hazy, the LSAT is such a hazy obstacle because people don't know how to take it. You ain't never did a logic game before. You don't know what you take that exam when you're ready to get the score you want. Do not take that exam and play with that exam. People say, I'm gonna take it to see how I do. That is not how you do law school or life moving forward from now on. If you can visualize it, that means God or the universe has given you that. So if you're thinking about law school, that means it's in your reach and you can attain it. If you say you want to go to Howard, you will go to Howard. If you say you want to go to Harvard, you'll go to Harvard. However long that takes you to get, it's not your business. It's getting there.
Thank you for that. Jamila, you want to hit on that point?
Okay, so everything that she said, I second. And I would just say that the few things that I have learned since going to law school. So if you want to go to law school, like she said, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to jump over the hurdles that are just set up by whoever set them up, because this is a field that we were not meant to be in. And since I've started law school, since I've been applying to law school, I've known that I haven't been welcome. So it's not a secret, it's not hidden, but if it's something that you want to do, you're capable of doing it. I think one thing that's very important to know if you're coming into the legal profession especially is your network is your net worth. So it's really truly 100% who you know, and building those connections and making sure that they're genuine and making sure that you're staying in touch with people, you're meeting up, I guess now via Zoom with people for coffee, and you're keeping up with mentors. And I think the most important thing is if anybody is doing something that you want to do or that you admire, ask them. Like she said, reach out to them and say, how did you get to your position? I'm in this position and I want to be in your position in the next 10 years. I want to be in your position in the next 7 years. Whatever your timeline is for yourself, you have to believe in yourself, because this profession is not for us as Black women, for Black people. So the only person who's truly going to believe in you is you. I highly, 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 highly suggest an HBCU if you want to go to law school, because it will truly make a difference. Like I said, I can't reiterate how much this profession is not for us. So if you can find us in this profession, those are the people you want to surround yourself with. Those are the people you want to look to for guidance. Those are the people that are going to help you, but then at the end of the day, you have to also believe in yourself. So that's what I have.
Thanks for that. And so I'm gonna flip this question up a little bit. And so, fellas, I want to ask you, what do you say to the current law student, right? The one that is struggling through the trenches, the one that is dealing with a pandemic, a recession, and everything else that's going on right now. What do you say to them in regards to pushing forward? And a second part to that question, for those that aspire to work at the big law firms, so Emerson, I'm going to pose this to you. What can they do now in regards to prep for that? And for those that want to, start their own firms, Daniel and Ryan, I want to hit that second point with you. What steps can they make in regards to going that direction?
Yeah, for sure. For that law student that has like a lot of the struggles that come just with life, honestly, I would say just be prepared to like renew your commitment to yourself, right? A lot of it's a grind, and the grind never stops. So with that, just make sure you have your faith system in check, right? Whatever religion, however you see the world, the higher power, make sure you have that relationship good and dandy, strong, and just be committed to yourself and like know that at your best, what you're capable of. Right. And that's what you're judging yourself off. That's the standard, not anybody else's performance, not what you think you should be doing, but actually based off what you've seen from yourself before, what you know your best is. So that's what I would tell that law student that's struggling. And also be sure to reach out for help, right? And however help looks. Sometimes for me, when I was struggling with one of my classes, help didn't mean I was sitting down asking somebody what the answer was. It meant just sitting down with someone and knowing that if that person has the highest grade in the class currently and they're still here working, I need to still be here working. So stuff like that, I think of in terms of just like committing yourself and renewing that commitment to yourself. terms of the law firm route, make sure you know someone at the law firm that you want to go to. And even if you apply to a law firm and you got in on a whim, meaning like our school hasn't had anybody at like a scadden before, let me apply, and you got in. Make sure you go and you figure out what Black affinity groups that they have, or any affinity groups that you identify with. And that's your first way in. And you talk to those people and you keep those connections going. Because once you get to the firm, that's what matters. Those are the people that's going to show you. Everyone goes through a general orientation, but there's still tips and tricks to the trade, especially for Black people, that you won't get at orientation. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that are going to be willing to say, hey, I know they said this, but what they really mean is this. This is how you go about that.
Ryan, so same question to you. So what advice and encouragement would you give current law students, and for those who aspire to start their own firms, what do they need to be doing now?
So to the first question, and I'm gonna go, I guess, a little bit off the ground.
Please, go ahead.
I'm gonna go a little off the grain here when I say this, and I think Daniel knows how I feel about this topic, but it's perfectly okay to hate law school. And it's okay to acknowledge that. It's okay to tell the world. It's okay to vent and complain. I hated law school. I hated everything about it. I'm glad no one asked me any questions about law school, because I really don't remember much about it, because I repressed all the memories because I hated law school. But with that being said, at the same time, you still should practice gratitude. And so while I hated law school, I always was grateful to be there, because there were people who would kill to be in my shoes and be miserable for whatever reason. But I did hate law school, but I think that is one thing that always kept me going, is being grateful and acknowledging the fact that my grandmother prayed for me, my mom, and everybody else, and all my ancestors. And though it's selfish that I do hate it while I'm here, and it's okay to acknowledge that, but I think just being grateful is a great motivator. In terms of those who want to go to, who want to open their own firm, the biggest thing I say is humility goes a very, very long way. And people remember that. If you're humble, they'll help you out a lot more than they will if you act like you know everything. So I always listen. I do way more listening and observing people back in law school, and even now in profession, than I do talking and acting like I know things. Second thing is get a mentor. And your mentor does not have to look like you. It's great if they can, but sometimes that's very hard to do. Like where I am, I'm the only Black lawyer. I can't, if I wanted a Black mentor in the city, I wouldn't find one, right? So it's okay to have mentors that don't look like you, as long as they truly are invested in you. And the biggest thing is network. I know everyone said it, but really, really network. And I mean this wholeheartedly. And for example, at least I know I must have been nice to everybody in law school, because when I go to courtrooms and I see prosecutors who went to the same school as I am, they always help me out. They always say, oh, you told me this thing in law school, you helped me out with this exam. Oh, who's your client today? And they'll look out for me. I have no knowledge of what I did for them, but they're very helpful to me. And then that's one of my largest referral sources as well. On our alumni pages, somebody says, oh, I need a lawyer in XYZ town. And they're Ryan Stowe. Everybody's commenting me. And so that's really, really good. Your network is everything. That's how you make a lot of your money, especially other lawyers who refer you directly. So for example, and I hate to say this, but if a person calls my office and they say, hey, Daniel Brown sent me, I know that if they like Daniel Brown, they're going to hire me no matter what I say the price is. And so sometimes that may be a time where you can raise the price, because they're going to hire you, because they have so much trust and faith in Daniel Brown. So you don't have to market or advertise to that person. You can just say, hey, here's my rates, and this is what I'll do for you. And they're going to do it no matter what, because they have so much trust and faith in Daniel Brown. And that's just a referral based off my network. So the best thing to do is network very, very well in law school. So one more thing, whatever it is that makes you different, you should celebrate that and use it to the best of your ability to get more clients if you're going to do the solo firm thing. So for example, for me, when I got to Salisbury, which is where I'm from, I realized that all the other lawyers were old and white, and none of them had Google pages. Like, you couldn't Google their law firm and stuff would pop up. Very first thing I did was created my Google page. If you Google anything dealing with me and lawyers, I'm gonna be number one. And so now I have way more reviews than all these firms who've been open for 20, 30 years, because they don't understand how the internet works. And so being a millennial taught me that. And so if you're traveling through this small hillbilly town and you get a traffic ticket or whatever happens to you, you don't have any word of mouth to ask anybody. You just go to Google, and then there I am, and they're not, because they didn't know any better. So that's number one, is just whatever makes you different, use it. And then two, I guess to that same point, so I've become like the king of guerrilla marketing in my head anyway. So I advertise with anything in pop culture that's relevant, I use it to market. So, when that entanglement thing happened with Jada Pinkett Smith, I was like, oh, you found yourself an entanglement? Call me for your divorce. And that went viral. I don't even really do divorces. I just said it because I knew that the whole internet was going to see it, and people who are charged with crime were also going to see it. And so just whatever it is that makes you different, you use it and you celebrate it, and don't try to be like anybody else, just be you.
Thank you for that. And so we're coming to a close, but I just want to give everyone an opportunity to just give a last brief word of advice, last brief push to keep going forward, or just anything else that you'd like to share that you have not had the opportunity to share thus far.
Okay. I just want to say, I just can't emphasize enough how important it is to take care of your mental health. I just feel like I have to keep reminding people and keep telling people. I think the thing that I'm most grateful, I also hated law school, Ryan. I hated every moment of it. I did not enjoy it. I would never go back. You couldn't pay me to do it again. But the one thing that I am truly grateful for about law school is learning about my mental health and how important it is and how important I am no matter what I have going on. And I just can't stress it because, I'm going through probably one of the most stressful times in my life right now, but I feel great mentally, spiritually, emotionally, health-wise. So it really, your internal, mental, everything that you have going on inside is going to make the world of a difference to whatever you're trying to pursue. And also just as a lawyer, as a Black lawyer, if you're going to be a Black woman and become a lawyer, you need to be excellent. So if you want to do this and if you want to pursue this career, make sure you're going to put in the work, make sure you're going to be honest, make sure you're going to work hard.
Echoing Jamila's comment about mental health, to get real honest about law school, you have meltdowns, and those are these things like you just in the middle of the library, it's 2:00 in the morning, you just don't understand. It could be near exam time, it could be early on, it could be mid-year, it could be you heard somebody got a great outline from somebody and you don't have it. By your second or third meltdown, you need to be paying attention to, or your second or third crash, pay attention to what is bringing it on. Is it a classmate? Is it a professor? Is it family issues? Is it anything like that? Because by the third meltdown, you need to know how to manage it. It doesn't mean you're going to stop having them, but if you can stop it from coming on wisdom, you need to exercise that. Second, don't listen to your classmates. Third, don't come into law school talking. Talk and be yourself, but people, like I mentioned, the big chest thing, my dad's a judge and my aunt is the general counsel for Walmart, and he knows the professor. Great. And if you have those connections, feel free to voice them. But I've learned that if you listen to people in law school long enough, you'll learn a lot about people. And you'll learn about a lot about motives. And people gonna say they study for something for 10 hours, but they don't pay attention, they texting in class. You don't care because you're in the library getting it in, doing the case law. You're in a great study group. Study groups, don't sleep on them, but find a great one, and I'll let you figure out how to do that. Because you're gonna get to law school, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a great lawyer," and then when grades come out, you got an A-, and they got a C+, which also law school grades, you're graded on a curve. So, and I explain it like this because a lot of people don't know this, and I think this is really important. If you have a grade, like you have 0 to 100 in college, and it's 30 people, and if 30 people get A's in college, then 30 people get A's, right? In law school, the person who got a 91 and the person who got 100, the 100 is an A, the 90 is a C or a D. So everybody's smart in law school. Everybody coming with it in law school. So if you get a bad grade, it doesn't mean you're dumb by a long shot. It does not mean that. You're at the top of the top, the cream of the crop. And you just gotta, when you get to law school, you gotta put that in perspective and hustle to get it, and hustle to maintain, and hustle to try to get ahead.
Thank you so much. And would anybody else like to throw in the last little ad bit before we end the call?
A couple pieces of advice. First, for someone that's entering law school, you have 9 months to change your life. Tunnel vision on a goal, do what you have to do, because that first year is the important year. All the years are important, but that first year can set you up for life. Second, use whatever makes you you to succeed. So school's hard, but that's like not news, right? So for me, being in law school, it was difficult at first, but I'm hyper competitive. So I made it a game. Now I'm like, oh, I need to have the highest grade, or I need to beat this person in the class, or I want to go each class session and I'm going to answer 5 questions. Or if I don't get cold called, I'm going to interject this amount of times, you know. Don't be a gunner though. Don't do that. But do whatever you got to do to keep yourself motivated and keep yourself engaged. And I found that making it like competitive, at least for me, because being competitive is my nature, it helped me from burnout, right? And that's something that we talked about earlier, but it happens and it's real. Next, like, know the profession you're signing up for. The reward for being great in law is more work, right? If you're in law school and you do well your first year, the reward for that is getting extracurricular activities, moot court, law journal, law review. That's more work on top of the things that you still need to do in practicing. And even I'm in a law firm, but I'm sure Ryan and Daniel could speak to this too. Like, you win a case, you're getting more cases, right? Like, it's just what it is. Understand that the grind never stops. And then lastly, for those preparing for the bar, it is okay to be selfish. This is like the time to be selfish, because it's you, right? You're setting yourself up. And I think that's something that kind of gets lost on us, that you have to be there for everybody and do what you've always done. But for that 3-month or whatever elongated period due to COVID, it's okay to be selfish and focus on you and get to where you need to be. And you can come back and resume those duties and responsibilities that you had before.
Yeah, just to whatever stage you may be at, whether you're undergrad, whether you're currently in law school, studying for the bar, whatever it may be, know that you can do it. Right, like I said before, you know, it's been done before. It's nothing new under the sun. So you're not going to be the first person. You're not going to be the last. Like, know that you can do it. Continue to work hard. What a man sows, they shall reap. So if you sow in good seeds and working hard and being diligent on a consistent basis, that's exactly what you're going to reap, a great harvest. 3, be balanced. Like I said, you can't do one thing all the time. You work hard, play hard, make sure your mind, body, and spirit is in the best condition possible so that you can perform at your highest level, no matter what you put your hands to do. Networking is extremely important. Everyone on this call has networked in some way or form with someone in the past, like asking questions, being able to pick someone else's brain about an issue that you may be facing. You're going to be in different rooms with certain people because of who you know and because of what you know. And a lot of times, man, just making sure you, even if you're introverted, you may not want to go out and introduce yourself to someone else, but get involved in some way, shape, form, or fashion, whether it's joining a bar association, whether it's joining a club or an organization, whatever it may be. Make sure you network, because that can definitely take you, a long way and put you in rooms that you probably wouldn't be in ordinarily. And then lastly, be confident. I think someone said earlier, if you had that vision to become an attorney, you had that vision for a reason. So know that you can do it. Know that you're going to pass before you pass.
I'll be brief. So 2 things. One is, don't compare yourself to other people, good or bad. It's not good for your mental health. Do not do it, especially. And the last thing is actually something I learned this week, but the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And so what that means is, if you slack off when you're in the gym, you'll probably slack off at work. Or if you are great in the gym and you give it your all, you'll probably give it your all for your clients and everything else. So that's something I'm trying to really, really do a better job with in my daily life, is the way I do anything and the way I do everything. So I'm trying to go hard on every single thing I do, even if it's just brushing my teeth, and so that can expel to other areas of life. So
I have one more thing. Sorry.
Go ahead.
This is very important. So I think also, if you're coming to law school, be very open to criticism. View criticism as a way that you can better yourself. Because in law school, people are going to tell you you're wrong. People are going to tell you it doesn't make sense. People are going to tell you you have it all wrong. But you need to be okay with hearing that you're wrong and open to understanding how you can fix it. So if you're not open to criticism, I'm so sorry, but law school is not for you. Because you're going to be wrong. 100%, it doesn't matter. You're going to have too flowery language. You're speaking too colloquial. You have to learn to just roll with the punches and use the punches to make you stronger.
But it depends also who's saying that, right?
No, you don't have
That's
to.
true.
Like you said earlier, if it's your classmates,
Yes,
you
not your classmates. No.
double check to make sure, because sometimes they right. But like if you're in a study session and you say something and they like, I don't think that's right, you better drop that quote, that case, give them the whole citation of where it's from.
Be able to back it up. Be able to back it up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, you go right ahead.
I promise you I'm gonna be brief. We need to learn how to write. We need to learn how to write, and I mean Black people. And I didn't say Black people typically know how to write. It's legal writing. If we can master legal writing, because I had this struggle coming out of law school too, and my partner would be like, "You can write. It's just you need to get back in the mechanics."
So I'm so sorry, but Jamila made me think of something in terms of criticism. Learn to live with other people's anger. And I say that because almost every day somebody's mad at me, whether it's a judge, a clerk, a bailiff, a DA, my client, the victim, somebody's always mad. And so as a prime example, just yesterday in court, the judge was pissed off at me because he was wrong on the law and he had to sign my expungement. And he was pissed. And my paralegal was like, "Oh, don't you care?" I was like, "No, I don't care. I make more money than a judge." He had to sign. You know, like you just got to have that much confidence in it because people are going to be mad no matter what. I don't know why, but they're always mad at me. So you just got to be confident and learn to live with people being mad at you.
But first and foremost, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of Voices of Black Folk. Call me Esquire. This has been so exhilarating, and learning these different tips that, someone like myself that's outside of the law profession did not know. And I'm sure for our viewers, those that are aspiring lawyers, they're going to watch this, and something you said or something you hinted on might motivate them to pursue that career path, whereas they thought about not doing it. So I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate all of you, and thanks again for being part of our show today. Thank you.